going, the way this country is going, is in a good direction for people, and I'm not afraid to speak out about that. And you know, probably one of the reasons why that is that you know, I grew up with a very young mother, someone that you know, worked very hard to give me everything that she could. And you know, I think one of the things that she taught me early on is you have to stand up for people that don't have anyone else stand up for them. One of the things that you know, I'm very proud to say that my mother instilled in me. And so, you know, in this race, you know, we talk a lot about compromise, and you know, I'm someone that tries very hard to get along with everyone. And it's something that I strive for, but I think that there's core issues that when it comes down to it, you know, if people don't want to be reasonable and let you know, working class, middle class people have what I believe they deserve, then I'm not interested in compromise on those issues. I think that you know, workers' rights, health care, Social Security, in this state, teachers' pensions and state workers' pensions, those are all things for me that I don't want to compromise on. I don't believe people need to compromise on. I think that they deserve more, and that compromise has been done on their backs too often. And in this race, you know, it's rarely quite clear that the two of us differ on this. You know, when we were in the minority in the 125th, I didn't support tax cuts for the wealthy in this state. I didn't go after the teachers and state workers' pensions. And I'm very proud about that. I stood up and said no, because I know what it means as a worker to plan on those type of things and have them taken away from you all too often. You know, like I said, I'm a logger, and I have to start at the beginning of the week with an idea that if I cut so much wood, that at the end of the week I'm going to get paid that amount. And until my work and labor is done, I don't get paid. And for me to have someone go and take away from me something that we agreed on at the beginning of the week is unacceptable. And that's what I felt that we did in the 125th legislature. We took teachers and state workers' pensions and made them go back on something that they had signed on for. I don't believe in that, and if you're going to do that in Maine, which in this race there's 4 major candidates, and I'm the only one that didn't support tax cuts for the rich and didn't support going after pensions. And so if the pensions in Maine are basically our Social Security, then why should you be trusted to go to Washington where we know the Republicans want to go after Social Security? They talk about it all the time. If you'll do it for Social Security in Maine, I believe that you can't be trusted to do it for people in Washington. So for me, that's what this campaign is about.
Thank you, Joe. What we're going to do is open it up for questions now. Emily will receive the question. Is there anyone in the audience with a question for Emily? I have some prepared questions, and that have been submitted to me, so I will ask that. When you think about the future of Maine, what is the one most important issue to Maine citizens, and how do you intend to address it? You'll have 3 minutes to respond, and then Troy will be given 1 minute to respond to that.
Thank you. Well, there's no question that the #1 issue on the campaign trail for the past year has been the economy in Maine. No question. And so when I think about taking action on Maine's economy, to get the economy moving, to give more opportunity for Maine people, I think there really is no one thing. There's no magic wand you can wave. You have to approach it from many different directions. So for me, it starts with raising the minimum wage, equal pay for equal work, investing in education, and specifically working to lower the student debt by investing in Pell Grants and working to pull back on the federal government being in the loan business for schools. I think it's more important to get back to focusing on targeted relief for working families, for young people across the state of Maine who want to start their careers after college. And I think at the same time, we need to be investing in infrastructure. And no matter which county I've been in over the past 12 months running this race, issues of broadband, cell phone service, roads, bridges, airports, ferries, ports, that foundation that the federal government has an important role to play in building really is what I believe will make the difference for us to grow the economy across the 2nd District. And so when I think about the #1 thing, looking at the future, there is no one thing, but everything gets run through the priority of how do we grow Maine's economy, how do we get that economy moving across the 2nd District.
Troy, response to that?
Well, I certainly agree with probably everything that Senator Kane just said, but I think it's definitely a mentality. You know, in this race, I've been said to want to bring the country back 50 years. I don't agree with that in a lot of ways, but I do think that 50 years ago, you know, workers in this country felt a lot more secure in what they were doing. We had, you know, thriving industry in this state. We had mills. And I think that it's time that we quit worrying about, you know, making compromises with the Tea Party in Washington, quit worrying about giving breaks to Wall Street Democrats, and start refocusing on, you know, mainstream people, the people that actually have driven this economy, and start giving tax breaks to those types of people. Start creating incentives to put down roots here in Maine and to start jobs here in Maine. Not worrying about trying to offshore, get jobs out of here, things like NAFTA, Trans-Pacific. Those are all things that have killed this economy and killed this country. And I think that, you know, going back to having a real focus on making sure that these businesses that are fair and want to do good things in this country get the incentives is what we need to do, instead of worrying about you know, like I said, Wall Street getting everything that they have over the last, you know, 10, 15 years.
Thank you. Second question to Troy. Anyone here want to ask a question to Troy?
Is it possible, Mr. Moderator, to ask a question of both candidates?
Yes.
I have a question. I just would be interested in each of you. Hi, Troy.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, Terry.
If you would let us know how you feel about the proposed east-west highway, which impacts the second district and potential infrastructure projects, and whether or not that's something that's a viable option that you would support in terms of the economy.
And if both candidates are asked the same question, they will each get 3 minutes to respond. Troy?
I don't think I need 3 minutes. I don't support the East-West Highway. I haven't. I won't. I think that you know, we have a lot of infrastructure in the state that, you know, we could do upgrades on and make better. In my opinion, the East-West Highway is just going to be a shorter way for Canadians to travel through the state and not actually do anything that's productive for it. So I haven't supported it, and you know, I've been very clear that I'm not going to support it.
And for me, the answer is simply, I don't see how it happens where the way things currently are. I mean, I've been watching it carefully because all the proposals would come directly across my Senate district in Penobscot County. And as I've met with communities that could potentially be impacted, every one of them says, but how do we know? When is it coming? Where is it going to be? Are there going to be exits? Is it going to help us? Who is it going to actually connect to some of the points that Senator Jackson made? So I think where it stands now, I just don't see how it goes. I'm worried about the impact on the Route 2 corridor and the businesses along that route. It's a road that I've spent a lot of time on, particularly since being in the campaign. And so I think where I am right now, I just don't see how it possibly moves forward.
Thank you, Emily. Another question for Emily, or both candidates, if you'd like. Okay, I will go back to the prepared question. What is your position on health care, and in particular the Affordable Care Act?
Is that to me first?
That is to you.
Okay, great. I think the Affordable Care Act has been an important step forward. I'm not interested in going back to the way it was before. Because before, you could be kicked off of your insurance because of pre-existing conditions. Health insurance companies got to make your health care decisions. 18-year-olds losing access to coverage just because they turned 18, and not because their parents didn't want to keep them on their plans. We can't go back to that time. I've been encouraged. Campaigning during the rollout of the website in the fall was pretty interesting, because 6 months ago, traveling around, heard time and time again, this is a mess, I'm so concerned. But now, almost everybody knows somebody who's gotten insurance through the exchange. I know a woman who didn't have any health care. She actually lost her health care in January because of the governor's refusal to expand Medicaid. She has gone through a tough few months, and just last week, 2 weeks ago, she got health care for $28 a month that will cover her prescriptions. That's transformative for her life. So for me, I want to go to Washington to work on improving the Affordable Care Act, to make sure that it's affordable for small businesses. that they can actually extend that health care benefit to employees, that it's affordable for families who have no other option, and particularly watching the rates. And I know there'll be proposed rates coming out in the next few weeks around small businesses and individuals and families. And I'm worried about that because I don't think we've done enough on the cost side of healthcare, lowering the overall cost and focusing on prevention. But I believe the Affordable Care Act is an important first step, and I want to keep working to improve it to make sure it's working for businesses and individuals.
Right. You know, in the 12 years, I'm certainly known as a labor advocate, but healthcare is really my passion. I think that the Affordable Care Act, definitely, I don't want to see it go away. I think what you have with the Affordable Care Act is what happens when Democrats try and compromise. It isn't what it should be. It needs to be strengthened a lot, but it is the law of the land, and I support it. I think we need to fix it because it didn't go far enough. I would support universal health care. You know, I've said this, I don't want to have a Sarah Palin moment, but I live in St. John Valley. I actually have a Fort Kent office, and I can look right into Clare, New Brunswick, and see people running around that have national health care, and they don't complain about their health care system. And they're right there. They're only 1,000 feet away from me, and it truly is a dividing line. Something that, you know, in my time, you know, I'm on my 3rd pacemaker now, and I know that how lucky I was to be elected to get government-sponsored health care. And everyone knows that I've said it time and time again, it's an embarrassment. It's something that I can't stand. Go back and look at my constituents in the face, that they don't have health care. And I was lucky enough that they voted for me is the only reason why I have health care. That's something that makes me sick to my stomach, and it's a real problem in this country, and something that I think everyone that goes to Congress that doesn't support this should be ashamed of himself. I know I'm ashamed of myself right now that we don't have a better plan.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Monday is Memorial Day, so I want to ask what you think are the top issues affecting our veterans and supporting them. Thank you.
Troy, that's to you.
Well, I think our top issues with veterans is a lot like other things, is that, you know, in this country we have a real problem of making commitments and then not following through on them. And with our veterans, I think that's, you know, one of the absolute worst things. I mean, you ask people, men and women, to go to war, go fight for our freedoms, you know, protect people like myself and my children. And then if something happens to them, when they come back, you know, we have things like, you know, what we have right now, people waiting for services and not getting the health care they need and deserve. And to me, that's an issue that, again, is something that should never be. When you make those commitments, you have to follow through on them, especially in that regard. You know, I think Senator Sanders said it very well this week. You know, if you're not going to follow through on your commitments, then don't go to war. It's as simple as that. And so when you ask people to make the ultimate sacrifice, you know, by defending you, then you have to make sure that they get those services that they need when they come back. And we haven't been doing that as well as we should. This is a race that I'm sure myself and Senator King both feel. Congressman Michaud has done, you know, a lot for veterans, and it's big shoes to fill in that regard. But I don't think you really can ever do enough for men and women that's been in the service, because, I mean, that really is something that, you know, I have to worry about my 2 sons at night, you know, what they're doing, where they are. But to have children that are, I mean, men and women that are over there and wonder about what's happening to them is something that I can't really fathom what it must be like for parents and for, you know, sons and daughters that have mothers, fathers over there. So, I mean, this is really a core issue that, again, there's just no room for not following through on those commitments.
Emily?
Thank you. Certainly, Senator Jackson said, I'd like to say Congressman Michaud leaves behind a big pair of New Balance sneakers when it comes to veterans issues in our state. And I was once taught that when a member of Congress votes to send someone into harm's way, they are taking a vote to take care of that person for the rest of their lives, them and their families. And so when we think about support for veterans, it's embarrassing what's been in the news this week with the long waits and people dying because of us not doing our job and responding and making sure people get access to the benefits that they deserve. But I think support for veterans in Maine, where we have such a large number of amazing veterans in our state, it's absolutely healthcare and access to those benefits in rural places, like Congressman Michaud has spent so much time and energy doing. But it's also about making sure there's opportunity for younger veterans when they return from service, for employment, for education, for training. Mentioning it earlier, but again, the GI Bill, something that has opened doors for completely amazing lives for people for generations. I'm the granddaughter of two World War II veterans. My uncle served in Vietnam, and two of my cousins served in Afghanistan. I take these issues very seriously and look forward to continuing the work that Congressman Michaud has done.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll move on.
There's one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Emily, do you support tax cuts for the wealthy?
Thank you for the question. I do not, as a rule, support tax cuts for the wealthy. And in fact, the budget referenced by Senator Jackson earlier, which I voted for, included tax cuts that I publicly stated at the time, was even quoted in the paper as saying I hated them. But that was a terrible time. That was the worst budget I'd ever seen in my 10 years there, having worked on budgets. And I know what we protected in that. I know what we